My name is Vojtěch Ripka. I come from Prague, Czech Republic, and my current job is a section for education at the Institute for the Study of Totalitarian Regimes in Prague. What is specific for 1980s in my memories are few things that have some political content but are not straightforwardly political, are more personal because I was quite young. So maybe the first thing would be that part of our family lives and has lived in the United States at that time. They were able to come. They were coming quite often, so every 2 years, and they were sending a lot of postcards, birthday presents, and boxes with presents. But it was kind of one way, so we couldn't go there to meet them and visit them, and that was something I didn't really understand, and it was hard to grasp because there was not any field for or any way to return or to mutually pay them a visit. So that would be something with a family relations content, but also with a political content. Then I definitely can remember coming to school for first few years, and at the school, right from the beginning, there were some small but tangible, maybe important clashes. Clashes between what was my family background and the way I was ready to behave given what my parents were telling me to do, and the authority of the teacher and school. So for instance, some things were mandatory, some things were based on voluntary basis, but actually were not that voluntary, especially if a person was just the one not taking part. It was not just the pioneer organization, but also, for instance, a book club where you had to order the books even though you didn't have any interest in those books that were at offer. Also, the teacher wanted us, but just due to the school regulation, informal school regulation, to call her comrade, which 2 or 3 people at the classroom refused and just told her Mrs. Teacher. And actually that was kind of accepted, but with some hesitance from the teacher, who was not really able to be completely sure and assured about her own approach. So she was pushed by the school to do something. She knew that she should do that because she wanted to keep her job and be part of the school, but she was hesitant to really force us to do that. It's definitely my family. So even though I'm aware of the concept of amor familiarism, putting family first in front of everything public, still definitely it's my wife and my 3 kids that comes up to my mind. So it's already 4 persons rather than things. Well, as you might expect, due to to my age, it was more or less predetermined by parents. So, the important groups within society that were kind of formative for me and important for me was the family, then my scout troop, uh, the school, after all, kindergarten, and then 2 different schools I went to, and definitely quite informal but strong group of friends of my parents and their kids. I would say that this group, usually people coming from the scout group, were not really fighting the system or in a very strong opposition, open opposition to the system, but they were kind of detached or in distance from the ruling system. So they were not joining any organizations, neither the Communist Party nor the satellite organizations, and they were, let's say, on the edge of some dissenting movement, going to seminars in flats and so on. But for instance, they were not very active in spreading out samizdat until 1988 or 1989. Then at that time it became so widespread that I would say most of these friends, but also really a considerable part of people living in Prague with higher education simply read samizdat newspapers. I found out just by the beginning of 1989. Retrospectively, they have given me a number of samizdat texts, not just books or magazines, but also simply pictures taken by camera. Kind of lot of them, I don't know, tens if not hundreds, but they were not sharing that with us, relatively small children. By 1989, there were relatively loads of these magazines. For instance, Lidové noviny, not really a daily, but a regular magazine, well, a regular samizdat magazine, which we knew about and were not really reading because we were not interested, but knew about and knew also about the way it is distributed a bit. But what might have been more important were cassettes with kind of protest songs, sort of funny remakes of folk songs made into protest song, especially by the spring of 1989. So that's a kind of strong memory because I can sing these songs even today. It was done by Ludvík Vaculík, who is a writer and an author of 2,000 words, a declaration, important declaration in 1968, but I wasn't really sure about this personality by 1989, but I was kind of aware of what he's singing about because by that time there were already some demonstrations in Prague, and for instance my dad was arrested by the time, just an overnight arrest because of participation in the demonstration, but when he was singing about beating the people that were demonstrating, I was more connected to that because lots of friends, including my parents, were part of that. Well, my son is entering or joining the scout troop next week, so that kind of remains the same, but definitely the group is much more open, I suppose, and competing in a much more competitive environment, because at that time it was not the only activity one can do, but a very attractive one. So that might kind of remain the same, but I would say that I'm trying to enjoy the openness of civil society. What I am trying to do is to be engaged not just through the institute itself, but more directly. So, for instance, my wife runs a community center, and I try to help her at least by taking care of children time to time. And I also am to some extent engaged politically, not a member of a party or running for running some campaign, but for instance, just minutes ago, I, as a result of some thoughts about ways to engage in the current situation in Ukraine-Russian conflict, I have signed some open letter to the Czech government, and with friends we are thinking about some happening, probably not a demonstration, some kind of happening, to focus attention on rather not the sanctions, but the core problem. So maybe rather than a single object, I would name one aspect of the situation, and that was the facade being unbelievably fragile and very visibly fragile. So I can name like maybe 2 or 3 different situations or processes that would show that. So by 1988, I was going to a language school in one part of Prague where the first May's parades were going through, and no one was really pushing you hard to join, so no problem not to be there. But before the parades, there were very thorough preparations, at least seemingly thorough. What you can see, because we were spending a lot of time in that district, is that they started in earlier 80s with painting the whole facade of buildings, and then they just were subtracting or doing just few stocks, and finally just the basement or the only one stock. So what they were doing is they were just doing a little bit with the only part of facade they thought people would be looking at. It's not very special. I have seen that in a film as well, cameraman by whatever, but I have experienced that, and it really seemed weird because you can see the difference in the color from the first stock up. and we already, like by ourselves, without being pushed or without being instructed, thought that this is something very it's kind of weird festivity if you're just painting another with another layer of paint, just the first stock, and that's it. So the only thing that was changing was the first stock. Also with the kind of railings, they didn't even clean it before painting. So you can see really thick layers on it, and it was just for the one day's shine. That might be one situation. Another sign of the fragile situation was that by 1988, the government tried to introduce a $100 banknote with Klement Gottwald, who was the Stalinist dictator from the communist putsch of 1948 till 1953 when he died. So they introduced that, but immediately were kind of forced to take it back and not to really distribute that because it was an embarrassment. People were like destroying it in mass amounts and painting it and so on. So I can remember that there were a few jokes by bending the banknote and so on. And on one hand, you had these celebrations of birthdays and name days of the president of that time. On the other, everyone was making fun of an older, celebrations celebrated especially in media. But on the other hand, you're bending the older one. So you could see that if these things were done by kind of widespread by everyone, then the respect and maybe even fear is not there anymore. So the fragility, very formal remains of something that might have been kind of working sometimes, but not in 1980s anymore.